3 hard knocks shattered the quiet night. Ranger, my old hound, growled low, his hackles bristling. By the time I peeked out the window and caught sight of the crooked plastic badge, my gun safe was already open. When I cracked the door, the man on my porch looked official enough to fool most folks. Navy shirt tucked too neat, radio swinging cheap on his belt, a holster without a weapon. But it wasn't the gear that gave him away. It was the posture. Chin high, shoulders squared, like he thought fear was a uniform he could wear. HOA enforcement, he barked. You're in violation, the words rang hollow. My land, 40 acres of pines and ridgelines outside Pine Valley, had never belonged to any HOA. That was the whole reason I bought it. I let him see the steel at my side and the badge still clipped to my belt. Commander Dan Mallister, I said, steady as a sermon. State police retired. And you, son, you're no cop. His face drained pale. For a beat, the woods went so still I could hear Ranger's breathing. Then he launched off. My porch and vanished into the trees, branches cracking in his wake. Ranger lunged, barking fury, but I held him back. Instinct screamed to chase. Experience whispered wait. That's when I caught it, movement deeper in the pines. A second shadow, watching, waiting. One fake cop was bad enough. 2 meant something worse. Organization. And in my line of work, organization always spelled danger. I shut the door, locked it tight, but my hand stayed near the holster. Ranger stood at the window, nose pressed to the glass, growl rumbling like a warning siren. The forest outside looked calm. But I knew better. That knock wasn't random. It was a test. The truth hit me hard. I wasn't just being harassed. I was being surrounded. That night, sleep never came. I sat in the dark with a cup of black coffee, Ranger curled at my feet, and my mind circling back to that imposter's pale face when he realized who I really was. He thought I was some easy target. He didn't know the kind of man he just cornered. And as the hours dragged, the past clawed its way back. 3 years earlier, I'd held Lisa's hand as cancer stole her last breath. 25 years. Married tougher than any soldier I'd ever commanded. But even warriors lose battles. After her funeral, the city felt like a graveyard. Every street, every diner, every empty room whispered her ghost. So I sold it all, packed what mattered: her wedding ring, a photo of us at Flathead Lake, Ranger's old blanket, and I drove north. Pine Valley, Montana. 40 acres of silence. Timber and sky. The kind of peace where a man could finally breathe. The locals welcomed me like Family Bill at the bait shop. Marcia with her peach cobbler, Sheriff Caldwell, my old academy buddy. For the first time in years, it felt real. Until the letter showed up, pinned to my gate in red ink. HOA notice. Unauthorized construction. Cease immediately or face consequences. No seal. No signature. Just a threat. At first, I laughed. Out here, there was no HOA. That was the point. But when I showed Bill, he didn't laugh. He frowned deep, cigarette dangling from his fingers. Don't take it lightly, Dan, he muttered. You're not the first. Cedar Creek Estates, they think. They run this whole county. I told him my land was outside their lines. He just shook his head. Doesn't matter what the papers say. Matters what they think. I drove home unsettled but still unconvinced until a week later. I returned from the ridge trail to find yellow tape wrapped around the shed foundation. I'd poured. Black letters scrawled across it. HOA enforcement. Do not enter. It looked more like vandalism than authority. But the message was clear. They wanted me to know I was marked. Sheriff Caldwell came out, took photos, shook his head. They've been pushing folks, he said. Fake patrols, bogus citations. Most people cave before it gets ugly. I asked, Him, what if IDN single quotes D. He gave me a long look. Then get ready, Dan, because if they've started with tape and letters, they're not stopping here. 2 days later, my power went out. And that was just the beginning. Someone had filed a disconnect. Order in my name. A forged signature at the bottom. That night, I sat on the porch in darkness, Ranger at my side, shotgun across my lap, not out of fear, but because I knew something was coming. At dawn, sunlight filtered through the pines. For a moment, it felt like the valley I came here. For quiet, peaceful, Ranger sniffing at the grass. Then I saw it. My stomach dropped cold. The shed. Wrapped fully in yellow tape, thick black marker scrawled across it. HOA enforcement. Do not enter. It wasn't vandalism. It was escalation. I called Caldwell. 20 minutes later, his cruiser rolled up in a cloud of dust. He took one look at the tape, jaw tight, muttering, "Damn fools." Trying to look official. Always Cedar Creek. I tore the tape down with one hard pull. I've got patience and a badge. Caldwell's eyes warned me. Dan, don't go cowboy. You're retired. Retired, I said flatly. Not dead. By dusk, I thought maybe I'd earned a quiet night. I was wrong. The lights flickered, then died. The breaker fine. The generator silent. Ranger whined low, uneasy. Minutes later, headlights swept across my drive, a utility truck. 2 men stepped out, clipboard in hand, service disconnect order. Signed right here. I shined my light on the page and froze. My name. My address. My signature. Forged. You boys are just doing your job, I said evenly. But that order's fake. They exchanged a look. Wouldn't be the first time. Cedar Creek's been pulling this stunt before. When they left, the cabin stayed dark. I sat outside with Ranger at my feet, shotgun across my lap. Not waiting for peace, waiting for the next move. By the third night, I stopped expecting rest. Ranger jerked awake at the wood stove, ears high, growl deep. I killed the lantern and crept to the window. That's when I saw it blinking red. A camera mounted halfway up a pine. Pointed at my cabin. Damn it, I muttered, grabbing my coat. I pulled it down, SD card still inside. But before I pocketed it, Ranger's growl turned savage. Movement. 10 yards out. A man in a hoodie slipping through the trees. This is private property. I barked, gun raised. Show yourself. No answer. Just pounding footsteps vanishing into the dark. I chased a few steps, then froze. Too many unknowns. I held my ground, Ranger snarling into the night. When the silence returned, I radioed Caldwell. We've got more than harassment now. Surveillance cameras. At least 2 individuals on my land tonight. Minutes later, Caldwell's cruiser rolled in quiet. Together we plugged the camera into my laptop. The footage came up grainy but clear enough. A man creeping through the trees. Planting the device. Adjusting the lens. Then, staring straight into the camera. I froze the frame. This wasn't random. He knew what he was doing. Caldwell rubbed his jaw. 4 other complaints this year. Always Cedar Creek. Same MO, fake notices, fake patrols, now cameras. They're building a pattern, I said flatly. And patterns have to break. He warned me not to storm. Down there alone. But I didn't answer. Because I already knew this wasn't harassment. This was organized. And if Cedar Creek thought they could put eyes on me without consequence, they were about to learn the hard way. This wasn't their county to claim. By dawn, I'd made up my mind waiting around was over. Whoever was pulling strings at Cedar Creek thought intimidation would break me. They didn't know me. I holstered my sidearm, clipped my badge where it could be seen, and drove the old Ford down the gravel road. Ranger rode with his head out the window. ears snapping in the cold morning air. Cedar Creek Estates looked alien in Montana iron gates, stone. Columns, fountains spraying like Vegas in the Rockies. Every lawn identical, every flag tilted at the same angle. Order, control, not community. At the gate, a man in a vest labeled community enforcement officer lounged in a lawn chair, sunglasses too big for his face, radio hissing at his hip. He barely glanced at me until his eyes caught the badge. Then he stiffened, muttered into the radio, and the gate opened with a buzz. "Head up the hill," he said, suddenly respectful. Walter Pierce's mansion rose like a fortress at the top. 3 stories, stone pillars, and a fountain that probably cost more than my whole cabin. Walter himself opened the door before I could knock. Tall, slick white hair, smile all surface, no warmth. "Well," he drawled. "Commander Daniel Mallister, Sheriff Caldwell's friend. What can Cedar Creek do for the great state police?" I stepped forward, boots crunching on his perfect gravel. "Cut the act. One of your men pretended to be law enforcement. That's a felony. If you're behind it, you're in over your head." Walter tilted his head, smug grin unshaken. "A fake cop? Serious accusation. Maybe a misunderstanding. Cedar Creek takes security seriously. Sometimes measures are misinterpreted." "My land's a mile outside your lines," I snapped. "Surveyed legal. You've got no jurisdiction." His voice dropped low, smile thinning. "And yet, your shed sits within 200 yards of our zoning perimeter. Ordinance allows oversight for fire safety, runoff, even. Aesthetics. Don't lawyer me," I growled. "That shed is mine. You don't get to rewrite the law because you think you're king of a cul-de-sac." For the first time, his eyes flickered. Then he retreated into his marble palace, door clicking shut like a gavel. Behind me, the fountain gurgled like it was laughing. Ranger growled from the truck, reading my temper. Driving out, I knew one thing Walter Pierce wasn't: bluffing. And this war had only just begun. That night, I went to work. Motion lights on the tree line, trail cams on game paths, a silent perimeter alarm, an old tactical trick buried in the dirt. Ranger slept inside at my feet. The cabin now a fortress. At 2:17 a.m., the alarm buzzed against my wrist. Ranger's head snapped up. 3 figures, 2 by the shed, 1 crouched by the generator. Dark clothes, gloves, professional, not kids. I grabbed my rifle and stepped onto the porch, breath clouding in the cold. Hands where I can see them. I barked. They froze. 1 bolted. Another raised a wrench, charging straight at me. Ranger snarled, lunging to my side. I fired 1 shot into the air. The thunder rolled across the valley. The man stopped cold, eyes wide, then ran, wrench clattering, into the dirt. The forest swallowed them. I checked the generator wires, severed, seconds from dead. Their mission wasn't vandalism. It was control. When Caldwell called at dawn, I told him. They weren't amateurs. They came with tools. They knew where to hit. And when I hung up, staring out at the tree line, the truth burned in my gut. They weren't testing anymore. They were escalating. The next morning, I didn't wake to birdsong. I woke to Ranger's growl, low and dangerous. At the edge of my property, a black SUV sat idling, waiting. No plates, tinted windows, engine humming. Like it was waiting for the green light to move closer. I clipped my badge, poured coffee slow, and walked down the drive. Boots crunching gravel. Eyes locked on the shadow behind the windshield. 30 seconds passed before the driver's door opened. Late 30s, slim build. Black suit, polished shoes too clean for Montana mud. He smiled quick. Too quick. 2? Fake. Morning, he said. Cut to it, I replied. You with Pierce? The smile held. I represent several parties concerned about unauthorized development near Cedar Creek. I chuckled. HOA Patrol, Code Enforcement, Environmental Compliance. You boys collect new titles like trading cards. His grin faltered just slightly. You're making noise for a man who wanted to be left alone. And you're trespassing on a state officer's land, I snapped, stepping closer. That wiped the smile. Walter Pierce doesn't scare me, but he should be scared of me. I've got trail cams, audio of your break-in, footage of your boys cutting my generator. He raised an eyebrow. Planning to press charges? Oh, I plan to do more than that. He sighed, pulled a card from his coat. Ethan Blake, property. Consultant. Pierce Development Group. I folded it in half and dropped it in the dirt. Tell Walter he's got 48 hours. Back off or I take this to the DA, the state, and every news outlet within 100 miles. Ethan studied me, then gave the faintest nod. Understood. He slid back into the SUV, gravel spitting as it rolled away, not retreat, not surrender. Just a warning. Ranger barked until it vanished. Back inside, I sent Caldwell the footage. His voice was tight on the callback. These weren't punks, Dan. They knew where your generator was. Came with cutters, gloves, no prints. Pros. You run the plates? I will. Don't expect much. Pierce hides behind shell companies. Then I stopped playing defense, I said flatly. That afternoon, I hit the county clerk's office. Badge got me behind the counter into records most folks never see. What I found made my blood boil. Pierce wasn't just building houses. He was redrawing borders. Forged maps, shady proposals, zoning filings that stretched Cedar Creek's reach 2 miles past its real line. On paper, my land was already claimed. I left burning with purpose. Outside Marcia's store, she spotted me. Jack, you look like a man on a mission. I am. Ever hear of Pierce pushing forged HOA boundaries? Her smile faded. Oh, sweetie, everyone's heard. But most families leave rather than fight. Too many lawyers, too much fear. Anybody still standing? I asked. She lowered her voice. The Whitakers. Ranch out by Mill Creek, Pierce. Tried to fine him for painting their barn the wrong shade of red. They're not even in his HOA. I nodded. Then I'll pay the Whitakers a visit, because this wasn't harassment anymore. It was a land grab. The Whitaker Ranch stretched wide under a gray Montana sky. Ranger thumped his tail like he already knew they were allies. Eleanor. Whitaker, 62, rawhide tough, met me on the porch with a shotgun. You hear about Walter? She asked before I spoke. I am, I said, flashing the badge. Daniel Mallister. Sheriff Caldwell's friend. Her face softened. Then you'd better come inside. Carl Whitaker joined us minutes later. Shoulders stooped but grip like iron. Over tea, Eleanor laid down a stack of papers violation notices, photos of Pierce's SUVs parked at their gate, even a fake lien threatening foreclosure. Police reports filed, none followed through. Too much fear. Too many lawyers. I flipped through the mess, jaw tightening. Every page screamed fraud. Well, I said, setting my badge on the table, he picked the wrong ranch this time. Eleanor's lips curled into the first smile I'd seen. About damn time. When I stood to leave, Carl walked me out. His eyes locked on mine, voice low. Dan, they're getting bolder. Watch your back. I nodded. I always do. But on the drive back, his warning stuck like a weight in my gut. Not a neighbor's advice. A survivor's. Back at the cabin, Ranger trotted up wagging, but I felt the walls closing in. Whitaker documents spread across my table. Same format. Same threats. Same machine. This wasn't Pierce acting alone. It was bigger. Funded, organized. And for the first time since moving here, I felt that old familiar itch, the one from raids and task force ops. The realization I wasn't living quietly anymore. I was standing in the middle of a battlefield that night. With the fire popping in the stove and Ranger curled beside it, I grabbed the radio. "Caldwell, it's Dan. I need a cyber eye on Pierce. Corporate ties, land deals, anything you can dig up." I was calling in a favor from someone I trusted with my life. The answer came sharp and steady. "Give me 24 hours. But I didn't get that long. Just before dawn, Ranger's bark shattered the silence sharp, furious. My silent alarm buzzed. At the west perimeter, rifle in hand, coat thrown on, I moved low through the trees, and there he was. A man in a black hoodie, gloves on, digging into the dirt behind my shed. A half-buried metal box glinted in the beam of his flashlight. When he cracked it open, I saw envelopes, cash, maybe more. Proof. Then Ranger barked again, too close. The man spun, flashlight in one hand, shovel in the other. Our eyes locked. Recognition hit me like ice. The fake HOA cop. The same one who'd pounded on my cabin door days earlier. Now bleeding, hoodie torn, he rasped words that froze me to the marrow. "They're going to bury me next." He collapsed, blood dripping, chest heaving, eyes wild like a hunted animal. Ranger growled low. "Ready to lunge. Who's they?" I demanded. His gaze flicked to the metal box. Panic rising, he whispered, "You don't get it. Pierce is just the face. HOA's a front, money laundering, land grabs. They scare folks off, then developers swoop in. I was just the runner. You weren't supposed to fight back." "Wrong man to knock on," I said coldly. Inside the box, stacks of cash stamped Pierce Development Site 4, a flash drive, photos, a list of names. Sheriff Caldwell, Marcia, Eleanor, Carl Whitaker. My own. Next to each one word. Buy, threat, push. Remove. Mine had a thick red slash through it. Remove. Rage surged hot in my veins. "This isn't HOA fines or fences," I muttered. "This is a hit list." Minutes later, Caldwell and Deputy Griggs took the man Travis Lenning into custody. Inside the cabin, the flash drive revealed doctored permits, forged contracts, maps of land beyond Cedar Creek, including mine. Plans for rezoning into a private HOA district. Caldwell exhaled hard. "They're not building a neighborhood. They're building a county." I clicked deeper. Lobbying firms. Local elections. Judges. This wasn't harassment. It was a hostile takeover. Then dash boom. A thunderous blast shook the cabin. Flames erupted from my shed, devouring weeks of work. A second explosion tore through the generator. Caldwell stood frozen on the porch, face lit orange by fire. "This is a message," I growled. "They know we've got proof." We watched until the roof caved in. Ranger barked mad, grief in every sound. The war wasn't coming anymore. It was here. That night, Caldwell insisted I stay with the Whitakers. But just after midnight, a tap on the window jolted me awake. Rain hammered the glass. A soaked figure stood in the shadows. Ethan Blake. No car. No umbrella. Just trembling in the dark. "You've got 30 seconds, I warned, pistol steady. "I need to talk," he whispered, because I was the one who planted the box. The words hit like a hammer. "You? I knew you'd find it. I needed Pierce exposed. It's not just zoning scams. He's tied to foreign investors, judges, officials. If anyone talks, they vanish." I stayed quiet too long, but after what he did at Lake Ridge, his voice broke. The Parkers. Walter forced them off their land. The father didn't kill himself. He was murdered. I can prove it. His hand shook as he pulled something from his coat. Emails, contracts, a full list of officials on payroll. And suddenly, I knew this went far deeper than anyone imagined, but I need something from you, Ethan whispered. What? I asked, rifle still steady. Protection. His voice dropped lower. If I hand this over, I'm a dead man. I almost answered when the world slowed. A red dot appeared on his forehead. My gut turned to stone. Down, I barked. The shot cracked. Glass shattered. Blood sprayed. Ethan's body dropped like a puppet with cut strings, crumpling into the mud outside the window. Sniper, I shouted, dragging Ranger back. Another red dot flickered across the wall inside then. Vanished. Suppressor. Clean angle. A professional. Carl Whitaker burst through the front door, shotgun ready. Eleanor right behind him, clutching a quilt like a shield. What the hell was that? Carl hissed. Shooter on the ridge, I snapped, crawling toward Ethan's body. Rain poured down, mixing with blood spreading across the soil. His eyes were still open, lips frozen mid-plea, but his coat pocket bulged. I reached in and pulled out a flash drive sealed in plastic. Wrapped around it was a note, shaky handwriting. Jack, if I don't make it, everything is here. Password, 911 Lake Ridge. I'm sorry. E. Before I could breathe, Carl's voice thundered from upstairs. Movement. Black jacket, rifle, pulling back through the trees. Can you hit him? I called. Not in this rain. Not tonight. Minutes later, Caldwell arrived with deputies. Lights cut through the storm as Ethan's body disappeared under a tarp. I handed Caldwell the drive. He was the whistleblower. Sud Pierce is just the face. Bigger money behind him. Now Ethan's proof is all we've got. Caldwell's jaw tightened. Then we protect it with everything we have. Back at the sheriff's office, rain hammering the roof, we slid the drive into my laptop. Password, 911 Lake Ridge. Folders exploded open audio files, emails, ledgers funneled through shell companies. Then one folder stopped us cold. Video evidence. I clicked. Hidden phone footage. Walter Pierce sat stiff at a table, flanked by two black-suited men. Across from him, a sweating young man. You'll sign the deed, Pierce said flatly, and you'll walk away with your life. That's the deal. My wife, the man stammered. She'd be taken care of, Pierce cut him off. But if you keep pushing, your accident won't look accidental. The screen went black. Caldwell swore under his breath. That's Jacob Parker. Lake Ridge. He vanished last year. They said he drove off a cliff. They forced him, I muttered, fists curling. Another file. A rezoning approval letter signed by Judge Henry Barrett. My chest went hollow. Barrett wasn't just the county judge. He was family. He'd spoken at my wife's funeral. And here his name was stamped on forged seizures and dirty permits. Caldwell's voice was grim. Jack, if Barrett's dirty, this doesn't stop at zoning. He's been rubber stamping for years. Before I could answer, the office doors slammed. Deputy Griggs burst in. Sheriff urgent, Pierce is gone. Surveillance caught him leaving at midnight. Suitcase, 2 escorts. Left this on his desk. A county map. My land outlined in thick red ink. Across it, scrawled words. Final acquisition. But what froze my blood was the hand-drawn X deep in the woods by my creek. A place no survey ever touched. What's out there? Caldwell asked. I shook my head. I don't know. But we're going to find out. That night, rifle slung, Ranger at my side, I hiked through the rain. Branches groaned like warnings. 20 minutes in, I saw it. A rusted trap door hidden under an old hunting blind. Hinges freshly oiled. I pulled it open. The air stank of gasoline and mildew. Stairs spiraled into black. I descended into a war room. Maps pinned to the walls. Photos of landowners tagged by. Threat, push, remove, computers hummed, radio still warm. And in the center, my photo. Caldwell, the Whitakers. Even Marcia from the general store. Above it all, Phase 4 remove stubborn elements. Ranger growled low and tense. That's when I heard it, the metallic click of a safety sliding off. You should have stayed in the city, Jack, a calm voice said. I turned slowly. Judge Henry. Barrett stood there, rain dripping from his coat, silenced pistol leveled at my chest. You gave the eulogy at my wife's funeral, I said, voice cold. And now you point a gun at me? His mouth twitched. I meant every word, but this is business. The HOA was never about lawns and fences. It's about land, power, foreign money. And you're the last loose end. His finger tightened on the trigger. Too bad for him, I'd already palmed a flare from my coat pocket. Hard to bury me. Henry, I growled. I slammed the flare against the wall. White fire hissed, flooding the bunker with blinding light. Ranger lunged. Barrett fired wide. The bullet ricocheted off steel. I tackled him hard. His pistol skittered across the floor as my forearm crushed his throat. His breath rasped hot against my sleeve. It's over, I growled, but then the monitors flickered. A grainy face filled the central screen, bald, silver beard. Thick glasses. Impressive, Commander Brennan, the voice drawled. I underestimated you. I froze. Who the hell are you? The one pulling the strings. Walter was a puppet. Barrett, the salesman. I am the architect. Barrett choked beneath me, panicked. He promised me immunity. The architect's voice cut him down, cold as ice. Briar Hills was just a prototype. We folded entire towns into HOA Control 4 states already. And you've only scratched the surface. You think this ends with Pierce? I spat. I'll find you. You've already lost, Jack. Even now, my men are headed to your cabin. To your dog. Before he could finish, boom. The bunker shook. Shouts echoed outside. State police. Drop your weapons. Floodlights cut through the stairwell. Caldwell's voice thundered. Jack, you good? I yanked Barrett to his feet and shoved him toward the light. We've got video. Files, everything. Federal agents stormed the bunker. Servers seized. Barrett cuffed, but as the screens went black, the architect's last word burned in my mind. Montana. 1 week later. We leaked word to the press. Barrett was cutting a plea deal. Naming names. It was bait. And Voss bit. Surveillance caught his jet landing at a private Montana airfield. Guarded. Remote. Perfect for a trap. Caldwell drove the lead SUV. I rode shotgun, rifle across my lap. Ranger sat calm in the back, eyes sharp. Quiet entry, Caldwell ordered. We cut through forest, snipped a chain-link fence. For a heartbeat, silence held. Then gunfire tore the night apart. Muzzle flashes. Ambush, someone yelled. Bullets ripped bark from trees. Sparks rained from the guard tower. Griggs dropped one shooter. I flanked left. Ranger bounded beside me, his barks like thunder, and then I saw him Leonard Voss. The Silverbeard, the architect. He stood near a truck, phone to his ear, shouting orders. He turned, saw me charging. Too late. I slammed him to the gravel, his pistol spinning into the dirt. My knee pinned his chest, my hand crushing his throat. You burned my shed, sent killers to my land. You murdered Ethan Blake. Why? Blood ran from his lip. He smeared. Because I could. I slammed his head into the gravel until the sneer was gone. Sirens wailed as agents swarmed. Voss was cuffed, dragged away. Dozens more followed, judges, contractors, county officials. The entire network collapsed. Weeks later, my cabin stood rebuilt. Stronger, the shed bigger. A flag raised at dawn each morning. Marcia brought cobbler on Sundays. The Whitakers delivered eggs and honey. Caldwell fished the creek with me on quiet afternoons. Ranger slept at the foot of my bed, finally at peace. But peace never lasts. 2 weeks later, another envelope arrived. No return address. Inside black paper, embossed with a single symbol. An oak tree surrounded by stars. The same mark I'd seen once before. On a classified Virginia file, the architect wasn't alone.